Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, delegates. We will now calculate the simple majority, and I think the 2/3 of delegates present. And I think please note that we have 19 delegates. I think, let me check, official delegates, we have 19 and observer 2, so total 21. And the 2/3 of delegate is 14. So yes, we have concluded we have received the majority, the 2/3 majority. All right. And now we are moving on to the third agenda for today, an overview of a white paper. For a committee, could you please share the slides that I prepared earlier? Awesome. Slides here, all right. As not all delegates here may have read the white paper on youth employment issues, so I think I will summarize the main discussions in our white paper really quick. Next. As some of you may aware that we have two sub-themes in this track, the social safety nets and youth social entrepreneurship. And as you can see from the slides, the 47% of the job insecurity is top cause of the future employment concern for youth across the G20 countries, with the 47% of them worrying about working in an unstable job, while the 73% of youth think that the government should provide social safety nets for workers in informal and non-standard employment, while the top 3 desired types of assistance by aspiring youth social entrepreneurship is regulatory support, education and training, and financial help. Next. And the impact of COVID-19 pandemic has traumatized the youth, a youth worker across the G20 nations. Our first sub-theme, which is the social safety nets for informal and non-standard forms of employment, looks at the young worker working in lower quality jobs in the informal economy and in arrangements outside of the traditional employment relationship, such as a part-time job, temporary work, or a 0 hours contract. Mainly, they face 3 main challenges. The first one is their inability to access public social protection coverage, which typically only covers the formal sector workers. And the second problem is financing. Unlike a formal sector worker, whose employers typically contribute to their employment benefits, young workers in informal and non-standard work often have to pay for their own insurance, for example. And third, young workers' own limited awareness of existing social safety nets programs and initiatives often exclude them from the social safety nets that are already available. Our research suggests that certain conditions will help young people to address these challenges. First, recognizing the involvement of stakeholders such as civil society, workers, organizations in providing social safety nets for workers will help the young workers to design their own solutions. And second, taking advantage of digital technology in the registration of delivery of social safety nets will help the young workers. And the third, tailored financial support for youth in the form of cash benefits will strengthen and alleviate the stress that young workers face and help them to invest in their future. And lastly, the strong government leadership can guarantee the universality and also the universality of the social safety nets for all young workers. And next slide. And our second sub-theme focuses on the youth social entrepreneurship as a viable pathway to employment for young people and also an opportunity for them to address the pressing community needs. And however, the young workers seeking to become youth social entrepreneurs actually face 5 main challenges. The first is the lack of regulatory support by the governments. The second, working in an extremely competitive funding environment. And the third, challenges in hiring and retaining talent and in working with the beneficiaries that lack skills and professional experience. And fourth, socio-cultural barriers. And fifth, uneven development and opportunity gaps for young people living outside of the major cities, especially in developing countries. And similar to the first sub-theme, our research suggests that these challenges can be addressed if certain conditions are met. For example, first is by taking advantage of internet-based financing alternatives, like what you heard on the second talk show earlier today, or like crowdfunding and peer-to-peer funding, which can offer young social entrepreneurs an easier way to secure financing. Second, by embedding the social entrepreneurship in educational support programs, such as in university, in high school, or youth organizations. Third, by securing government support and recognitions, which will lead to the creations of regulations and policy instruments. And fourth, interlinking key players in the youth social entrepreneurship ecosystem to ensure that young people are supported as they transition from education to the working world. And yeah, that's all. I hope I summarized them neatly without having to reduce some important points. And if other delegates are interested in youth employment white paper, you may read the white paper on our website. And next, we're moving on to our main session for today. Our final agenda for today is the opening statement of the policy proposal of youth employment track. Right, as stated on the rules of procedure at the opening statement, session rule 18, the delegates must submit an initial policy proposal virtually after the kickoff meeting up to the first pre-summit session. The deadline for the youth employment track was earlier today, 20th of March, afternoon, Jakarta time. And thank you for those who have submitted on time. And in this session, each delegate will deliver a 3-minute summary for their own policy proposal. And after our session today, the track chair, assisted by the track sous-chair and also the track officer, will compile and share the submitted policy proposal as a starting point for further discussions, or you may call it as a draft or communique. And during the youth employment pre-summit opening statement session, the track chair will open the floor for youth employment delegates from all G20 countries, EU delegates, and observers to present their statements. And each delegate and observer statement shall take no longer than 3 minutes and may reflect of their prior submitted initial policy proposal. All right, without further ado, let's start to hear the opening statement from each delegate. First of all, I'd like to hear from delegate from Argentina. The screen is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all. It is a pleasure to be able to share this consensus building day with you, where we try to shed light on the problem of youth employment. As we are aware, youth is the main sector affected by job insecurity at the same time that it registers the worst unemployment rates. This is a worldwide constant, but in Latin America, it represents an aggravated issue. According to CELAC, the unemployment rate in 2021 for this population was 23.8%. This proportion is slightly more than double the general rate and 3 times more than that of adults, a situation that is repeated in almost all the countries of the subcontinent. The pandemic has intensified and exposed the structural inequalities that distinguish the young population: unemployment, job insecurity, lack of social protection, and even more so to women, with the unfair gender division of labor and social organization of care, among many others. Speaking as a Latin American and as an Argentinian, I believe that in this conversation, we have to give rise to the local variants of what the white paper calls social entrepreneurship. In my country, being able to establish a business, that is to be an entrepreneur, is something mostly related to the upper middle class and with focus solely on economic gain. Here in Argentina, it is the social economy or the popular economy, the form of entrepreneurship that aims to contribute to the community, in a framework as plural as the G20 and the Y20, recognizing this diversity is key. In that sense, we are all young, but we have had all some privilege that allowed us to get here. When we think of solutions for the youth, we must consider that there are many factors which contribute to inequality. Gender, race, being born in a city, or being part of a rural or indigenous community. According to the UN Habitat, only 1/3 of the world's population lives in metropolises. Having a disability, social class, and the list goes on. We must keep those things in mind in order to be truly inclusive. Let us think of programs that promote youth employment with an inclusive perspective, thinking especially in those who are the most unprotected. We must introduce into the system those who have been historically marginalized. And we must not think only solutions for our problems alone. Up to this day, youth has encountered constant barriers when trying to be part of the conversation. In that regard, I would like to stress the importance of generating cooperative responses from, for, and with the youth on a multilateral and regional levels to guarantee equal opportunities. Worldwide, the youth is the main victim of inequality gaps, and their needs are urgent to be addressed, since our generations are the main actors of both present and future. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, delegates from Argentina. After Argentina, I would like to hear from Australia. The screen is yours.
Selamat malam, nama saya Amber dan saya adalah delegasi Australia. Good evening, everyone, and good morning and good afternoon from wherever you are in the world. My name is Amber and I'm the Australian Delegate for Youth Employment. I would like to formally present the following policy proposal, which aims to address youth unemployment across the G20 and other nations by supporting youth social entrepreneurship. The Australian delegation proposes that an organisation should be created that provides educational support to aspiring youth entrepreneurs and advocates for increased regulatory and financial support to be provided by government. We advocate for an intersectional perspective to be adopted, so those that are marginalised or experience a range of disadvantages still have access to equal opportunities. The organisation will provide education on many topics that are important to founding social enterprises, such as legal issues, funding models and access, entrepreneurial thinking, accessing markets, measuring impact, and branding. If further upskilling is required, such as skills in website creation or data analysis, the organisation can connect youth to relevant programs that can upskill them. The organisation could offer education in the form of accelerator programs and individual consultation sessions. These will be promoted through local universities, student societies, schools, and other youth organisations to ensure a diverse range of youth are able to access this education. These programs will also facilitate youth networking, building a community of like-minded young people to support each other on their entrepreneurial journeys. The programs will take place in the organisation's offices, and such offices could include a co-working space for young social entrepreneurs, which will further encourage entrepreneurial ecosystem growth. This ecosystem can be further grown by the organisation establishing partnerships and connections with local key players, educational institutions, youth bodies, and government. The organisation can leverage these partnerships to promote their work, invite key players to contribute to the educational programs or act as mentors, and advocate for regulatory and funding support to be provided. The structure of this organisation will consist of local branches being established across urban and rural areas of the G20 countries. These branches will design localised programs and connect with key players and government in their local areas. An overarching management body will provide guidance and resources to local branches and be responsible for overseeing the implementation and effectiveness of local branches. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and consider this proposal, and I'm always open to discussing this idea further with any delegates and observers. Terima kasih.
Thank you, delegates. Wonderful, well-timed policy proposal addressed. And next one is Canada. Next on my list is Canada. Delegate from Canada, the screen is yours. No, sorry, my mistake. After Australia, it's Brazil. My mistake. I'm sorry, Canada. After Australia, let's hear from Brazil. The delegate from Brazil, the screen is yours. After Brazil, you can go next, Canada. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Sabino Oliveira. I'm the Secretary of Youth for Rio de Janeiro City. I'm sorry, but I have a problem with my cell phone camera, so You won't be able to see me right now, but my message here is that the COVID-19 pandemic hit all over the world, but impacted lives of young people and social vulnerability more intensely. And in order to overcome this scenario, which has further exacerbated social inequalities, a policy effort by the private and public sector and academia is necessary. The strategy must be led by the state that would be in charge to balance social and economic interests through the creation of tax exemption program for companies that employ youth labor, especially those who are looking for their first professional opportunity, and for young people in social vulnerability. In this program, the youth training would be universities' responsibility, and the program differentiation would be the preparation of companies so they could deal with the reality of a person who already live in social exclusion and who face physical, emotional, and social subsistence losses during the pandemic. An important aspect of this program would be an intense performance of technology companies financially supporting the program, training young people according to the demands and of its own sector, and absorbing the workforce of these youth who will be qualified. Opportunities must be created for low-income young workers to transform their realities through professional qualification in the technology sector. Then they might overcome underemployment and low pay. Finally, the program should have young social entrepreneurs training for the articulation of local economies. This articulation would aim to train young people in the territory, retain the wealth produced locally, and increase the feeling of interdependence of social actors. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. All right. Still have 1 minute left, but that's okay. Since you have 3 minutes, you have given 3 minutes, so you can spend it wisely, as long as you don't spend it more than 3 minutes. All right. After Brazil, next on my list is Canada. The delegates from Canada, the screen is yours.
Good evening, bonsoir, Honorable Track Chair and distinguished guest. And my name is Olivier. I'm the Canadian delegate for the Youth Employment Tract. So I'm joining today from Montreal, Canada, located on the unceded indigenous lands of Ganegeihaga Nation. And I'd like to first express my gratitude to Indonesian Youth Diplomacy and the organizing committee who coordinate the pre-summit. And thank you, my fellow delegates, for sharing your perspectives and policy positions. And as pointed out by the track chair, the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the labor markets that were already precarious and insecure for many young people. And according to the World Economic Forum, youth employment dropped by 8.7% last year, which is more than double the rest of the population. And the pandemic also accelerated existing trends such as automation and digitalization. Therefore, the Canadian delegation believes that it's not sufficient to solely respond to these challenges today. Instead, we must develop more integrated and cooperative policies that adapt to the changing needs for the future of work. And taking this opportunity, we propose some key policy areas for this summit. First, sustainable inclusion. We must understand that it's not enough to simply hand over more resources, but rather foster public-private partnerships and develop tailored approaches to create sustainable jobs for all youth, whether it's institutionalizing social entrepreneurship centers across educational and vocational institutions, workforce infrastructure programs for youth with disabilities, localized employment plans for youth from indigenous communities, rural and remote areas, or improve the credential recognition process for immigrant and refugee youth. Mobilizing more members of marginalized groups into the workforce not only make labor markets more inclusive, but also drive economic growth. Second, modernization of social protection systems. So they have to meet the heavy demands of a changing economy that have had profound impacts on the young workers today. So we should empower youth participation in trade unions and expand collective bargaining frameworks, especially for workers, for sectors in which young workers are well represented, such as retail, the gig economy, and the informal economy. Third, centering skills mismatch in policymaking. So facing the fourth industrial revolution, we've seen serious decreases in the number of jobs in the mid-skilled labor segment, the so-called squeezed middle. So on one hand, we need to expand training pathway in knowledge economy, such as AI and technology. On the other hand, we also need to boost employment in skilled trades and green energy and foster a more worker-centered economy. And thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. And the Canadian delegation looks forward to working with all of you on these very important issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Canada. And after Canada, next up is China. And after China, France, please prepare yourself to go out to China. And for the delegates from China, the screen is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rosie Wu from China, and I'm the Chinese delegate of youth employment. Today, we're gathering together to help address youth employment challenges in G20 countries, and it is my pleasure to meet you all. So with the internet economy developing and also with pandemic going on, informal and non-standard employment is thriving all around the world. For example, in 2021, more than 60% of China's enterprises were using non-standard and informal employment. However, there are some problems. The workers need to buy social security expenses by themselves, which is a heavy burden. And also, many of them have limited awareness. And secondly, the youth are having trouble to find a job or even an internship because they lack of work experience or skills. So based on these problems, our proposals are firstly on training, aim at the cultivation of skilled talents, and we should urge school education to provide market-oriented courses, and also public and private partnership to provide policy consultation, employment guidance, and also legal awareness. And secondly, our regulations. We think it is very important to expand the coverage of social security on gig workers, such as work-related insurance, medical care, pension insurance. And also, it is very important to make full use of technology. And our proposal are like building internet employment platforms like apps and also the websites to facilitate job matching system, especially in rural and remote areas in less developed countries. It is to say, it is not the strongest and not the smartest, but the most suitable can survive. So we believe by helping the youth get enough opportunities and training skills, it is hopeful that they will find the most suitable jobs in the world and to better live their lives. And thank you so much as China's delegation. We are looking forward to have more collaboration with all of the countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, delegate from China. France, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Dear delegates, Honorable Chair, sincere greetings from the French delegation to which I belong as delegate for the youth employment track. I am delighted and very much looking forward to working with all of you in the light of this Y20 2022 session under the Indonesian presidency. While conversing with various young adults from all over my country to prepare for this first policy proposal, while engaging in direct contact, I grasped how much the youth is concerned and caring for their future, for what they will live on tomorrow and for what will fill their days in a few years. COVID-19 was nothing more than an insight on this. Times call for even deeper action. The French delegation's priorities firstly lie in the enhancement of formal education's academic syllabuses and organization to seek for a greater calibration between academic curriculums and professional requirements, and the aim to lead future and young workers to respond to current and nearing issues especially spotlighting green transition and digital transformation. Our intentions also lie in promoting an emphasis on continuing education by promoting academics-backed career moves or conditional employment offers where recruitment is conditioned to the following of a specific part-time professionalizing academic module. We also aspire to smooth transitions and evolution by implementing a set of mandatory internships at the end of high school to invite students to better connect and engage with the professional sphere at the end of the graduate or postgraduate degree, decently remunerated and perceived as a first experience for future young job seekers, perceiving this internship as an open door to the jobs market. The delegation would also like to focus on incentives to employ young workers with a progressive governmental relief of employers' premium and wage setting for young workers based on their age and level of study. And we'd also like to increase incentives to engage in the civil service by promoting a change in the hierarchy system, which we would like to dig into merit more than seniority and years of experience. We also wish to favor young workers' mobility with bond-tied scholarships to forge a larger perception of society and to enable them to meet job demands more easily while retaining remote jobs as a fallback solution. We'd finally like to promote rehabilitation for young convicts and reintegration in the youth employment system, governmental support for arts, culture, and research, where young artists or researchers in the field of environmental sustainability or green transition would benefit from extra support. Our delegation also wishes to promote equity, making sure to prevent disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, broader cultural background, or pregnancy-based discriminations. Dear colleagues, more than in any other track, I very much believe that we are, in the end, all seeking for the same goal, an enhanced relationship between the youth and the professional sphere, and I have faith in our common intelligence and trust in our capacities to build a sustainable pathway to a multilateral, far-reaching collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz. After Franz, I would like to hear from Germany and India. The delegate from India, please prepare yourself to go after Germany. The delegate from Germany, the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Sending greetings from Berlin to all over the world. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present today our policy proposals. So the COVID-19 pandemic has given the youth another disease in addition to the virus, namely the increase of youth unemployment. Unemployment, precarious employment, low wages, and no access to social security have been the norm of the majority of young people during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the youth need a kickstart to get out of this terrible situation. And the best social safety net for young people is to get them into high quality jobs. And for that, we are proposing the implementation of a youth guarantee in each of the G20 countries, which is similar to the one in the European Union. Following aspects should be covered. Young people up to the age of 30 should receive a high quality offer of employment, further training, an apprenticeship or an internship within 4 months of after becoming unemployed or leaving education. The design, monitoring, and evaluation of these national recovery plans must be ensured through the involvement of social partners and young trade unionists. The program is to be financed by the states with the participation of the economy. Jobs offered under those programs must be subject to certain standards, such as collective bargaining, minimum wages, written contracts, and adhere also to limits on weekly work hours. Furthermore, we also suggest that the following points should be established by law: ban unpaid internships, quality frameworks for internships and traineeships, protect young people basic labor rights and secure their right to collective bargaining and minimum wages. Young people should have equal access to social protection and income support, regardless of their employment status or age. In order to establish a sustainable social entrepreneurship, we propose the following points. The country should establish easy, accessible national microfinance funds for social entrepreneurship, coupled with mentoring and guidance. It should be also ensured that in this funded projects, good working conditions are represented. And also ensuring the participation of entrepreneurs and trade unions in the design of these programs. The G20 countries should establish knowledge centers on social entrepreneurship, where countries exchange on funding models and best practices. These are our proposals. Thank you for your attention, and we are really looking forward to the discussion with you.
Thank you, Germany. You still have 30 seconds left. Would you like to use it, or would you like to pass it to the next delegate?
Oh, we can pass to the next delegate. Thanks.
All right. India, the screen is yours. And after India, Indonesia, please prepare yourself.
Namaste. Coming from a civilization which has always emphasized on empowerment of its younger generation since time immemorial, it is an absolute honor to represent India's perspective on youth employment in Y20, hosted by Indonesia, with whom we share absolutely great historical, cultural, and economic ties with. One of the foremost responsibilities of all member states is to create an ecosystem of sustainable livelihood opportunities for youth. India, having one of the world's largest youth populations, faces the challenge of continually generating employment opportunities for the youth. Taking the agenda of youth employment as a key priority area, the Government of India has designed a holistic strategy and implemented various initiatives to promote entrepreneurship, boost financial inclusion, and augment livelihood opportunities. There are some recommendations that I would like to state. The first one is infrastructure. Developing a specific geographical locations as special entrepreneurship zones, which will be hubs of entrepreneurship, which required the state support, will be effective for the upcoming days. The next one is innovative financing and ease of doing business. With that, financing with youth-led innovations for creating an atmosphere to empower youth to transition from job seekers to job generators as entrepreneurs through priority sector lending by offering collateral-free microloans to start their business at lowered interest rates. Developing mechanisms for simplifying various compliance procedures such as registrations, clearances, and other assessment procedures, especially for the startups. Institutionalizing cooperative groups such as women's self-help groups will be really helpful. And the next one is capacity building and awareness. Promoting the private sector to invest more in research and development and engage the youth in navigating innovative problem-solving approaches. The next one is about social security. Implementing strategic interventions focused on access to quality health infrastructure and skill training, and providing legislative guarantees such as right to education, and curating the justice delivery system must be easy to access and expeditious resolution of disputes. As a Y20 member state, we look forward to sharing knowledge, learning from all the fellow Y20 member states to empower our young global citizens towards sustainable livelihood. Dhanyawad. Namaste.
Thank you so much. You still have a few seconds left. Would you like to use it or pass it to the next delegate?
We can pass it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on my list is the delegate from Indonesia. And after Indonesia, the delegate from Italy, please prepare yourself. The screen is yours, the delegate for Indonesia.
Thank you. Commitment to the G20 Youth Roadmap 2025 should be reinforced to improve the labor market prospects of young people. Progress towards Antalya Youth Goal should continue to be monitored based on the agreed indicators and national circumstances. Aligned with these objectives, I believe that we need to provide young people with pathway to decent and stable jobs through end-to-end interventions that aim to, first, prevent youth entering the labor market from getting into precarious work. To do this, I propose prioritizing skill-based approach in formal schooling, especially through the institutionalization of apprenticeship and career-building programs in secondary and tertiary education. Governments also need to establish nationally standardized and adequately resourced vocational education systems oriented toward optimizing youth employment outcomes. Lastly, decentralized and community-based vocational training should be revitalized to democratize access to quality skill development for disadvantaged youth, including those not in education, employment, or training, low-skilled, female, and disabled. Second, we need to protect youth already working precarious jobs from falling further into social and economic exclusion through adequate social protection measures linked with prudent labor policies. To do this, it is crucial to ensure that targeted youth are covered by social health and employment insurance. We also need to enact affirmative policies that enable young workers, including first-time job seekers, to claim social insurance benefits, especially premium waivers and relaxed eligibility criteria, such as minimum contributions paid. Lastly, I propose the expansion of unemployment benefits to provide job insecurity benefits, which shall include both income support, such as cash transfer that provides protection floor during external shocks, as well as employment support in the form of job training and job search assistance or placement program that can help connect youth with decent work. Third, we need to provide youth with opportunities to transition to better jobs, especially from informal to formal economy. To achieve this, I propose that we facilitate disadvantaged youth to upskill and reskill through accessible, relevant, and certifiable training programs provided through triple helix partnerships. Importantly, we need to champion youth social entrepreneurship in national development agendas by establishing robust regulatory frameworks that support and reward the creation of social enterprise. Lastly, I call for the establishment of G20 Youth Social Entrepreneurship Hub that will serve as an integrated ecosystem that widens access to funding, networking, and transfer of knowledge between aspiring entrepreneurs and key stakeholders in the G20. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. Next on my list is Italy, the delegate from Italy. The screen is yours. And after Italy, Japan, please prepare yourself. Delegate from Italy, the screen is yours.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone. I'm Selena Zhu, and I'm the Italian delegate for youth employment. I'm honored to be here, and I'm thankful for this amazing opportunity. Youth employment levels have worsened in the past 2 years because of the global pandemic. It is important now more than ever to intervene. The policy that I would like to propose aims at facilitating the transition to the labor market for young graduates, early school leavers, and young people without formal education. In fact, education is often essential to obtain high-paying jobs. However, higher levels of education are a privilege not accessible to all segments of the population. And this is a problem that affects greatly young people belonging to lower social classes. One solution to this issue is to provide to everyone, regardless of their educational or socioeconomic background, proper support system through mentoring services. These services could help young people get informed about career opportunities and assist young entrepreneurs to develop startups and even help them access better credit facilities. Moreover, these services through upskilling and skill development courses would be fundamental to help to meet the increasing demand for work in new sectors, such as the digital or the green one. Even if some countries have already implemented similar systems, what many of them lack is counseling about the functioning of the labor market. This is crucial to alleviate the effects of asymmetric information that favors the employers. And therefore, it is important to create a more fair job market. Schools are another tool to ease the transition to the labor market. Through addition to current educational curricula, it will be possible to foster an entrepreneurial mindset and safeguard young workers by increasing their awareness around labor rights and available social protection programs. Following the last point, it is important to remember that workers in the informal sector or in non-standard forms of employment are often not covered by social protection. This should be guaranteed to all workers regardless of their working sector. Furthermore, to promote an equal labor market and social mobility, more flexible study programs for workers should be implemented. One example could be part-time enrollment programs or work-study degrees designed with a collaboration between employers and universities. Thank you a lot. Grazie mille.
Thank you, Italy. You still have 40 seconds left. Would you like to use it, or would you like to pass it to the next delegate?
I can pass it on to the next delegate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. After Italy, we would like to hear from Japan. Please.
Good morning, good afternoon. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure and honor to participate in this prayer summit and share ideas with you all. As a result of COVID-19, especially vulnerable young people likely to face difficulties in the labor market and they are excluded from the society. However, as the fastest aging country in the world, I would like to emphasize the importance of the empowerment of the youth. During the recession of the mid-1990s and early 2000s, many of young people in Japan who entered the labor market with less education experienced a huge income loss in comparison with the more educated people, and resulted in the social exclusion of the youth at the time. And that also raised the number of the non-starter job workers in need. Nowadays, those needs are turning to the middle ages, and many of them are still supported by their aged parents in their 80s. These elderly families are grappling with the widening array of complex problems such as poverty and social exclusion. This is called the 80-50 problem. So what can we learn from this lesson? The global economy is in the middle of the recovery process from COVID-19. We need to include youth in the recovery measures and make sure not leaving any of them behind. We recommend to establish a framework that identifies young people most at risk of early school leaving, including young people with the mental health issues at early stage, and will provide them with the tailored health and social supports to avoid further impacts and disruption in the learning of young people, because it will affect them in the labor market in the long term, and possibly they could end up excluded from the society. Given that the young people are unskilled and there's a lack of in-person training opportunities due to the pandemic for young people, we should enhance digital inclusion of the vulnerable youth, including the area of vocational education and upskilling trainings. Those skills training or related programs should be aligned with the labor market demand in growing sectors to avoid mismatch. In addition to the social safety net provision, social entrepreneurship should be promoted in the labor market, and those ambitious youth often face difficulties of getting advisory services and funding when they try to start a business. We recommend to improve access to finance, including recovery-related finance programs for social entrepreneurs, promote low-interest loan program, and accelerator programs provided by both public and private sectors. Also, fear of failure is one of the major reasons that people would like to quit the stable job. So by establishing easily accessible platform for young entrepreneurs that provide specialized information such as legal affairs, advisory services, and networking opportunities, we might be able to encourage youth hesitating to start a social business. Furthermore, we suggest to encourage entrepreneurship education in the early stage of education to foster entrepreneurship by creating meeting places with entrepreneurs and implementing entrepreneurship workshops for the children. We look forward to have a discussion with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. Next up is South Korea. Please note that no representative from South Korea present for this summit. After South Korea, I would like to hear from Mexico, and after Mexico, Russia. So please prepare yourself. And for the delegate from Mexico, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. I'm really pleased to be here in order to talk about this special topic. In 2015, under the G20 summit in Antalya, G20 leaders agreed to reduce the proportion of young people who are most at risk of being permanently left behind in the labor market by 50% in 2025. However, despite the progress that countries have made in this area, the COVID-19 pandemic has jeopardized these efforts by magnifying existing inequalities, affecting unevenly on different groups, particularly young people who were already in vulnerable situation before the pandemic. For this reason, it is necessary to propose a skill strengthening plan that will boost this group and help promote full inclusive employment, aiming to achieve the Antalya goal of the post-COVID-19 world. There is a need of joint work in order to promote social safety nets to be financed and distributed for youth, create a private ecosystem to empower social enterprises. According to the OECD and the International Labour Organization, most G20 economies had made some progress toward the Antalya goal. The share of young people not working or studying have declined in most G20 countries since 2014. Nevertheless, the school-to-work transition has become increasingly difficult, especially for two reasons. First, the sharp contraction in economic growth, which increases the rate of young people out of school and out of work by reducing jobs and slowing recruitment. And second, to prolonged periods of unemployment of school closure that have increased the lack of skill acquisition for new jobs. This being really important in Latin America as being the region with most average of school closure around the world. For this reason, it is imperative that G20 governments continue to develop plans to introduce young people to a changing labor market by improving education and the skill of youth and not only to provide a greater choice in education pathways and access to higher education, but to facilitate the schoolwork transition. The proposal to achieve this constrained into a plan to seek to promote skills for youth by a shared responsibility process in a multi-stakeholder approach. First, teaching skills for work and life by investing in early childhood education, promoting quality and secondary education outcomes, and preparing students for the abilities, society, and jobs that are demanding. Second, ensuring and promoting jobs accessibility by creating national strategies to promote the recruitment of young people, helping to shape the demand for higher level skills. And third, to encourage firms to invest in skills by promoting continuous training and education programs once hired. At the same time, it is imperative to take into consideration the different types of jobs, including people with disabilities, indigenous communities, among others, that being especially important for countries like Mexico and regions like Latin America, which unfortunately holds the first place in the most unequal region of the world. By focusing on this stakeholder approach, we can achieve our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mexico. Thank you for presenting your proposal. And after Mexico, we have Russia on the list. And after Russia, there will be Saudi Arabia. So please prepare yourself. So for the next 3 minutes, Russia, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Yekaterina. I'm Youth Employment Delegate from Russian Federation. And it is my pleasure to be here today and to meet you all. And here's what I would like to share with you. The COVID-19 pandemic is having a negative impact on the global economy, and rising unemployment has become a key indicator of negative processes. The decline of economic activity has increased labor market tensions and reduced employers' demand for workers. The most vulnerable groups are those who are not able to compete on equal footing with others in the labor market, and among whom are young people. With the crisis, there are fewer available jobs, which aggravates the position of young people in the labor market due to their lack of work experience. And I build my proposals to respond to the above-mentioned challenge around university environment, since I believe that universities have a crucial role to play in the implementation of social protection for youth, as they are the main body preparing youth for the labor market entry. Therefore, it would be extremely beneficial to create career centers at universities designed to improve the competitiveness of students and graduates in the labor market and to help them choose their field of professional development. Since centers would help, such centers would help to bridge the disconnect between higher education institutions and employers in order to make education more practice-oriented and ultimately make it easier for young people to enter labor markets. On completion of their studies, every student should possess a universal core set of competencies, which includes foreign language skills, IT skills, crisis management skills, and effective communication skills, in addition to their subject-specific knowledge. Career centers would be financed through partnering with industries and the provision of activities for partners like participation in job fairs, career events, priority job posting, etc., that promote employers' brand among students. For those students who choose entrepreneurial rather than corporate careers, there should be business accelerators in career centers which prioritize support to business ideas that contribute to COVID-19 recovery and sustainable development. Thank you very much for your attention. I have my hopes high that together we will facilitate addressing youth employment as a priority in the G20 countries' action plans. And from my side, I would like to assure you that Russian delegation is looking forward to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Russia. Thank you for presenting your policy proposal. And after Russia, I would like to hear from Saudi Arabia. And next up after Saudi is South Africa. So please prepare yourself. And for the next 3 minutes, Saudi Arabia, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining from around the world. I would like to first thank the Y20 organizers this year, the Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, and greet my fellow delegates and the attendees of this session. In 2020, the global growth employment fell 8.7% for young prospects compared to only 3.2% for adults with experience, according to a recent study by the International Labour Organization. With the fall, a rise in the non-standard employment occurred that urged for an immediate regulatory actions and reforms. The informal economy is very critical as it's dominated majorly by young workers, women, and individuals from unaffluent and disadvantaged backgrounds. The ease of access to the non-standard market is a golden opportunity to be utilized via systematic accelerator to bridge young individuals to stability. Social entrepreneurship is another golden opportunity to create a learning to earn framework, which will require policymakers, NGOs, and employers to work together to influence a change in the current hiring process. We, the Y20 Saudi delegation, recommend that the G20 accelerate the implementation of the agreed upon G20 Youth Roadmap 2025 by enabling innovative structure to intervene and create jobs, promotion opportunities, and ensure a safer job market for the youth. This will only be achieved by first focusing on digitalization of the informal market, regulations, and accelerate access to information through increasing digital access to informal economy employees by financing an online framework by the government, facilitating informal economy rights and regulations in order to protect workers from any instability in the job security. Second, building a clear plan for individuals in the non-standard economy to create bridging path to stability through developing upskilling programs across the public, private, and third sector that allow youth with lower educational background in the informal economy to be prepared with in-demand skills needed in the economy for them to compete with high-potential candidates. Third, partnering with social entrepreneurs via government linkage by accelerating the development of national mentorship and training frameworks to aid young social entrepreneurs and youth-focused NGOs to succeed sustainably, especially in rural areas, by partnership with the public sector as a driver. By creating an enabling environment for young social entrepreneurs and reinforcing more regulations to the non-standard economy workers, unemployment will be reduced, the transition for young individuals to stable job will rise, and a safer social protection will be more accessible. We call for focus and urgency, especially post the COVID-19, so we can recover in order to become more resilient and rebuild our youth community stronger than ever. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to work with all of you in the future.
Thank you, Saudi Arabia, for thought-provoking proposal. And next up is South Africa, and after South Africa, next on my list is Turkey. So please prepare yourself, Turkey, after South Africa. And for the next 3 minutes, South Africa, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the Chair and the fellow delegates. My name is Akona Koteni, a youth employment delegate from South Africa. In 2021, South Africa was recorded to have reached a 34.9% unemployment, while youth unemployment sat at 66.5% between the ages of 15 and 24, and 43.8% between the ages of 25 and 34. What was an even further concern was that out of the 10.2 million young people aged between 15 and 24, 3.4 million, which is 33.5%, were neither in formal employment, education, or training. Over the years, youth unemployment in the country has been impacted by political, economic, and social crises, as well as the global COVID-19 pandemic. Most jobs which have been lost in the past decades were found in the trade, community and social services, construction, private households, and mining sectors. Over the years, it is becoming more and more clear that even those with academic and matric certificates, as well as higher education qualifications, are not bound to secure jobs straight after high school and university, especially in the fields which they studied in. Barriers such as post-grad qualification requirements and also prior experience are amongst many which are limiting young people from entering into the formal employment market, thus resulting in many young people turning to entrepreneurship, low and semi-skilled work in the trade industry. With a growing youth population globally, as well as the fourth industrial revolution, globalization, digitalization, and the climate crisis, it is becoming evident that in the next 8 decades, many young South Africans, as well as global young people, could find themselves unemployed, displaced, and thus in generational poverty. Traditional and conventional jobs are rapidly being phased out because of technology, digital and social media platforms. And with the increase in young people turning to informal and non-standard forms of social entrepreneurship as their careers of choice, we as the young South African delegation believe that it is therefore important that the country's government and private sector increase their social safety net for the uprising market of youth workers. We propose the following recommendations, which will ensure that the young people receive quality work and priorities in the country. We recommend that young people should receive unemployment social security grants, which support them in the transitions between schooling, employment, and unemployment. We recommend awareness, training, mentorship, upskilling, and empowerment programs, which will support young people during those periods. We recommend that financial and regulation and legal support be increased to these people. We also suggest that more digital, technological, and data support be provided, as well as youth leadership and representation in public and private leadership platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa, for presenting your policy proposal. And next up on the list is Turkey, the delegate from Turkey. The next 3 minutes is yours. And after Turkey, United Kingdom, please prepare yourself. And Turkey, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. Greetings from the Turkish delegation. My name is Berfu Gesobe, and I am the delegate for youth employment. We are delighted to start our pre-summit series with youth employment, as it is a critical aspect for all G20 countries. The youth of the G20 countries possess great potential for technology, development, and diplomacy. Reports now show that the effect of the pandemic has been devastating for youth employment in several different ways globally. Therefore, a collective roadmap for the post-pandemic world can be transformative. Turkey has always expressed the importance of accelerating youth employment. There are several Turkish best practices that all G20 countries can pattern, ranging from funds for youth-funded projects and social enterprises, hundreds of youth programs across the country, and diverse educational pathways based on young people's choices. In light of our country's practices and the conversations we had with different stakeholders and delegates, our delegation brings the following policy proposals to the table for all G20 countries. First, youth in urban and rural regions shall be enabled and assisted to access skill training, employment opportunities, and resources. Second, social enterprises shall be supported with resources as well as targets to become self-sustaining. Third, social enterprises shall be empowered through mainstreaming impact investing by the private sector. Fourth, different education to work transition processes that involve assistance and protection shall be designed for different educational pathways. Fifth, social safety nets shall be extended and intensified for education to work transition processes and youth in the informal sector. Sixth, unpaid internships and non-standard employment shall be regulated and restricted. Lastly, social safety nets shall be tailored for those youth groups with a risk of long-term unemployment, such as youth with disabilities. In brief, we emphasize the empowerment of youth social entrepreneurship, and skill development opportunities. Hopefully, these recommendations will enable all delegates to reflect on theirs and have conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, delegate from Turkey. You still have 30 seconds left. Would you like to use it? Or would you like to elaborate more, or would you like to pass it to the next delegate?
We can pass it on to the next delegate. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. After Turkey, we would like to hear from United Kingdom. And after United Kingdom, United States of America, please prepare yourself. And the next 3 minutes, the screen is yours, the United Kingdom.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Shauna Dilly, and I'm the UK Youth Employment Delegate. So in my journey of trying to find sort of political proposals to help combat youth employment issues, I've spoken to a variety of stakeholders. So from think tanks to professors to organizations dedicated towards working toward youth employment. I've spoken to the variety of stakeholders. I've gathered data sources, reports, census data to really get a real grasp of the variety of issues that young people face in youth employment. So from this research and from all this from this investigation, I've created 4 policy proposals that I think would be effective in hoping to deal with the employment issues. So the first policy proposal is essentially a job guarantee scheme that is dedicated to young people working in the formal sector, that on the basis that they volunteer in the green sector first. So I think a key element of providing young people that work in the formal sector with adequate social protection is to get them into the formal sector. So through this job guarantee scheme, what will happen is that firms will partner with local authorities and give these authorities funding to train young people in skills that are useful in the green sector. For example, marketing, sales, and project management. They will complete 6 to 12 months of training and then 3 to 6 months of volunteering within the green sector. So upon completion, these young people are then fast-tracked to apply to relevant entry-level jobs within the firms that funded their training in the first place. So I believe this policy idea would really help to have a variety of benefits. It would, one, help to benefit the environment through giving more young people volunteering roles in the green sector. It will help firms with their corporate sustainability, and it will also give more young people in the informal sector social protection and transferable job skills. My second policy proposal is linked to social entrepreneurship. So government support and recognition helps give potential for youth entrepreneurship, and their validation makes them more legitimate. So I propose introducing government-backed youth social entrepreneurship networks. So for example, here in the UK, we have the British Youth Council, and this is partially funded by a government department. So I believe this can be expanded across the G20, so where networks that are fully or partially funded by governments, and these networks will connect established entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, and potential social investors. My third policy idea is regards to mental health. So many young people cite mental health as a major barrier to entry in employment, and cite fears of being over-expiring young people and graduates must include mental health support provided by trained professionals as part of the employment benefits. And for my last policy proposal, once again, young people cite a lack of quality and availability of careers advice in school and university. I propose introducing government grants to businesses that partner with schools and universities to provide quality careers advice, so that firms will receive a higher grant to provide a better advice.
Thank you.
Overall, I hope to work with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate from the United Kingdom. That was a well-received policy proposal. And after United Kingdom, I would like to hear from the United States of America. And after the USA, we would like to hear from European Union delegates. So please prepare yourself. United States of America, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Fellow delegates, I'm John Dominguez, delegate from the United States, and I'm delighted to partner with you in championing youth across the world. As we explore the menu of policy options presented to us today, let's remind ourselves of what it means to be a citizen. Citizenship is a partnership between the state and the citizen. On one side, there's the collective responsibilities of the state, and on the other, there are the obligations that must be fulfilled by the citizen. When forming policy, there must be a geometrical proportion between the state's responsibility and the duties of the citizen. When one of these is imbalanced, the partnership between citizen and state is in jeopardy. At the center of my proposal are the principles of reciprocal responsibility. I come from a country that spends $2 trillion on social protection, and I have to tell you, we do not get $2 trillion worth of results. Over the years, I've observed that the challenge is in building a policy framework that rewards habits of productivity and removes obstacles to economic independence. For example, we know that marriage is the building block of prosperity. So I propose supplementing safety nets to married parents to promote young adult family formation. Good safety nets also don't penalize you for productive habits, such as saving money. And furthermore, this proposal offers a plan for addressing the employment challenges for youth with disabilities. Finally, in order to progress, we must generate new business. As you know about us Americans, we love us some good business. And when it comes to stimulating entrepreneurship, my proposal comes with 2 pillars. The first starts with designing education curriculums that are tailored to business standards. Education is often too isolated from business leaders who should be participating in shaping our curriculum. Students should graduate with the skills that employers are hiring for. The second pillar centers on building the necessary social networks that makes entrepreneurship possible. And no, Instagram is not a pathway to relationship building. Jokes aside, the pillar of social networks is more important than policymakers realize. For most business owners, their first 10 customers come from their own social orbit. The first investments come from personal friends and family. This tells us that social capital acts as a glue that shapes engaged communities and as a lubricant for creating social networks. Communities stimulated by social activity create the conditions necessary for risk-taking entrepreneurship. And if you're not persuaded yet, vibrant communities set up the very social protections that governments dream about. As we weigh our proposals, let's not overlook the duties of a citizen, and let's not neglect social cohesion as the invisible glue to community resilience. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you guys in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you, the United States of America, for the well-received policy proposal. Next up is European Union. And after European Union, we would like to hear from the 5 observers that we have here. So first observer will be ASEAN. So the delegate from the European Union, the next 3 minutes is yours. The screen is yours, please.
Dear chairs, fellow delegates and observers, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that I represent the European Union delegation here today. As we meet today, I have to say, I am speaking to you about youth employment with a mixture of caution on the one hand and confidence on the other. These mixed feelings are of course due to the pandemic, but also due to the fact that war has returned to our continent. 2022 is the European Year of Youth, so we are ready to support young people's participation in society and to work together with you all. Firstly, I will talk to you about youth guarantee schemes. We call on the G20 countries to adopt youth policies that include youth guarantee schemes that create opportunities for young people and act as a powerful driver for structural reforms and innovation. It is important to ensure that youth policies and guarantee schemes are regularly adopted and adapted to societal shifts, economic shocks, and ever-changing youth needs. It is important also to lead regular youth consultations that encompass all youth groups and involve them in the design, implementation, and monitoring of all policies and youth guarantee schemes. Secondly, looking at the world today, we see a considerable gap between the skills young people have and the skills employers need. Without opportunities to build the right skills, millions of youth will struggle to find jobs and risk being left behind. We cannot let that happen. Society must come together to address this gap and give today's young people, future earners and employers, the skills and opportunities they need to access meaningful employment and thrive in today's job market. Only by doing so can we begin to create sustained outcomes for young people in more inclusive economies and societies. We call on G20 countries to create a skill mapping and gap analysis system to define and evaluate critical skills, categories, and ways to ensure and measure competence. It is important to build a national digital skills platform in which the youth would be able to register and gain skills development credentials in a secure way. It is also important to invest in educational programs and new learning approaches that include new technologies and teach new types of skills, including digital, green, and soft skills. Lastly, to set up national and regional forums to improve information sharing among key stakeholders and young people on the digitalization of skills. Honorable delegates, the world has been through some turbulent years. We have great challenges and great opportunities ahead. So let us face the first and grab the latter. Now it is time to take action. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, delegate from European Union. for presenting your policy proposal. And as we have completed the 20 delegates from the G20 nations, we now moving on to the observer. As the youth employment track, we have 5 observers. Let's start from ASEAN. And after ASEAN, I believe the delegations from indigenous people and local communities is present. So please prepare yourself after ASEAN. And for the next 3 minutes, ASEAN, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to honorable chairs and our fellow delegates. So today I would like to use 2 metaphors to encapsulate the policy proposals that our delegation have provided. The first one is a kampong. A kampong is a Malay term that refers to one's village, but I think that it refers not to just one's own village, but to a community. And a community encapsulates the very idea that we want our social entrepreneurship ecosystem to sit in. And we want to unleash the untapped potential of youth. And so it is imperative for us to build a social entrepreneurship ecosystem that's undergirded by 2 elements. The first element is a vertically organized structural support facilitated by strong public-private partnership. And the second element is a horizontally organized community support facilitated by networks of like-minded youth. This also should be coupled with support from various stakeholders, for example, more experienced business leaders, investors, academics, so as to ensure that our youth not just learn about social entrepreneurship, but to support them in long-term business planning and business making for scaling up businesses. This will create a creative, innovative, and supportive ecosystem for our youth social entrepreneurship. And the second metaphor that I have is one of a trampoline. A trampoline brings us the idea of fun and youthful times, but more importantly, there are 2 elements to a trampoline. The first one is a base. The base catches you when you fall. So this is similar to our social support system. And for the ASEAN delegation, we want to focus on gig economy and informal employment. So the policy proposal will fit into a line of a structural support for youth in gig work by guaranteeing them employee rights akin to that of a contractual worker. And this means mandating basic social protection, such as medical benefits and union representation, coupled with comprehensive social protection and insurance scheme. But more importantly, of a trampoline, we all know there's a spring. So it allows you to rebound and allows you to soar to greater and higher heights. So the spring refers to skills training. And the skills training proposal that we have is a career transition movement that's helmed by a tripartite alliance between Employers Federation, Labor Union, and government agencies, providing job matching, reskilling, and upskilling services, tackling 2 main areas of transition. So first is a transition from higher education to job market. And the second one is within the job market across different industries for our young professionals. And we also hope to predict highly sought after skills through research and modeling so as to incorporate these skills development courses into higher education curriculums. And with that, with the metaphors of a kampong and a trampoline, we hope that that encapsulates the very ideas that we want to bring to the Y20 youth employment debate. And with that, we look forward to working together with various Y20 delegates to make our world a better place and to solve the urgent problems of youth unemployment and youth in informal and non-standard forms of employment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ASEAN delegations, for presenting your proposal. And next in my list is the observer from the Indigenous Peoples and Local Communities, or IPLCs. The delegate, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening here from Indonesia, Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, observer, and distinguished guests. I'm Farah Olivia, the observer delegate of Indigenous Group and Local Community. It's extremely privileged to attend this first pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia. We realize that indigenous people and local communities play a big role in development areas. In the past few years, this group have been marginalized due to the effect of development intervention before the pandemic or even during the pandemic. Many effort has been done to ensure that the youth has the same access to social protection, social entrepreneurship training program, but the biggest challenge we have is access to information, access to funding, capacity building, and also the solid ecosystem on social entrepreneurship and youth employment. So by this chance, we encourage everyone that it is important to first involve the indigenous group in decision-making process to help creating the right intervention or strategy regarding youth employment agenda. Second is to promote adoption of indigenous knowledge system on creating the right intervention like business training or models needed by this group on youth employment agenda. The third is to increase the socialization of programs and also policy from the public or private sectors through contextual engagement and approach to indigenous group. And the fourth is to increase the accessibility of flexible funding and resources to ensure that funds benefit the targeted group by implementing the contextual approachment with the local community so that all youth, women, and girls in their all diversity has the same access to the social protection and access to social entrepreneurs related program. Lastly, on behalf of indigenous people and local community, we propose to support the creating of indigenous people law or policy and also provide the additional chapter in this law which focusing on promoting and investing in the leadership of indigenous group, especially in the youth employment agenda. We highly value the participation of inclusive voice from indigenous youth, women, and girls, and other diversity. Therefore, we are looking forward to discussing this and other issues related to indigenous people and local communities in the following months. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. You still have 30 seconds left. Would you like to use it or pass it to the next delegate?
I would like to pass it to the next delegate. Thank you.
Well noted. Thank you so much, delegate. After the indigenous people and local communities, or IPLCs, the next on my list is OECD, but please note that no representative from OECD present for this session. And after OECD, we would like to hear from Spain as an observer. The screen is yours.
Fellow delegates, hola, I'm Edu from Spain. Our generation lived many crises. This has left a scar which affects young people. In Spain, youth face a 40% unemployment rate, and just 1.5 of 10 youngsters live outside their parents' house. The numbers speak for themselves. This situation is more dramatic for women, people from vulnerable backgrounds, as well as other social groups. Relevant and impactful measures need to be taken. Consider these proposals as a possible step into reversing this reality. First, to ensure that youth temporality, underemployment, and the barriers for employment seekers are tackled so that young people are able to start and sustain their life projects with more stability and better job conditions. Also, to ban unpaid internships from existence, as stated also by the European Parliament, since this is a form of exploitation, shows how young people are undervalued, creates a privilege gap between young people and impacts on their mental health. And more than that, to create an internship international chart that will assure rights of interns all over the world. Social safety nets should be implemented and financed by different governments as a path to eradicate youth poverty and unemployment. They have to be specifically focused on women, youth with disabilities, rural youth, and migrants. Public and private sector should also finance and empower social enterprises, as the post-COVID economic recovery needs to be based on community and need to have a strong cooperation with civil society. All type of public and private programs regarding education and employment, as well as finances, as well as finance support, should measures and always not discriminate by age. This also applies to discrimination by age in job interviews and within the job environment, as public and accessible ways to report the situation to the authorities should be implemented with the proper consequences to companies. This framework needs to be also focused on second opportunities for young social entrepreneurs, since multiple studies show that more than 80% of entrepreneurs' projects fail after the first year. Moreover, only 14% of entrepreneurs in Spain are women. This needs to change right now. Therefore, ensure mentorship supports a more flexible ecosystem and lower access barriers, and mainly all the economical barriers that will improve their situation. As a final remark, we believe that we will only be able to change the reality of employment for youth if we take an approach that is based on gender equality, intersectionality, and diversity, with all actions taking into account sustainability and the social and ecological impact in their communities, and youth participation and in the very, very center of the process. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Spain delegations. You still have 30 seconds left. Would you like to use it or pass it to the final delegate?
Yeah, I can pass it to the final delegate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Spain. And as we have the final observer here, we have a World Bank, the delegates from World Bank.
Yes.
The next 3 minutes is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Alberto Aguilar, and I represent the Youth2Youth organization that it's part of the World Bank Group. It's a community of young professionals dedicated to engage and inspire, empower young people in global development. So with the Y2y Initiative, which is how we call it, we have one of the already, it's more like a policy. On a policy standpoint, we work with a program called Youth Voices. The Youth Voices program aims to integrate youth viewpoints into World Bank Group development initiatives to better understand the challenges that young people face and to provide a youth lens to its operational and analytical work. So these chapters provide an opportunity for regional and local development using youth and using their voices. So one of these programs and one of these verticals is based in Brazil, where we find that 1 of 4 youth are in the need category, which means they are neither working nor structuring. For the Brazil chapter, there was a lot of funding approval, and they build data reports and use them to understand the job market and provide available careers based on the needs of the job market. There's a matching opportunity in the job. There's a matching opportunity between matching what the job needs and what the people are studying. So we are using data analytics, data reports to provide a policy based on that, so students and youth can study what the market is actually requiring. Additionally, another of our programs, it's the Youth Innovation Fund Initiative, where actually we can allow youth and allow young professionals from the world to present their ideas based on innovation that can provide development. So these ideas will receive support and funding from the World Bank, standpoint, to make them, to bring them into life. Some ideas that we promote is based on sustainability, based on mentorship, based on career development, based on climate solutions. And we're working with different venture capital firms, private equity institutions, World Bank experts to actually bring innovation and development join together and bring to life. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate from World Bank. You still have 25 seconds left. Would you like to use it, or?
I'll pass it.
No.
I'll pass it to you.
No, you can pass it on because you're the final observer here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you so much. And yeah, as an observer from the World Bank has concluded his statement, we have come to an end of our session. I thank you everyone for wonderful opening statements. I'm glad to hear that youth in G20 nations are pushing forward important agendas like what we did today. For the summary of today's policy proposal, my team has concluded several key points. The first one is the need for an equitable social safety net that covers the most vulnerable part of the young populations. The second is building an ecosystem that supports young entrepreneurship, especially access toward education, capital support, and social networks that accelerate the business process and eventually build a good climate for doing business. And the third, to push the public-private partnership and advocating the representative legislation that supports the national climate for youth social entrepreneurship, and to advocate the private sectors to provide information about the up-to-date labor market and data and impact investing towards the strategic youth social entrepreneurship. And last but not least, harnessing digital infrastructure to create a supportive ecosystem that supports the access of social safety net, the youth social entrepreneurship support, and also access toward the key business resources such as the capital and business network. And as I informed earlier, the track chair assisted by the track switches and also the track officers will compile and share the submitted policy proposal as a database for further discussions. And starting tonight, my team will have a great task to achieve in compiling this wonderful and thought-provoking policy proposal. And I'm sure you'll give us a headache, well, a good one though. And we will inform you about the draft of the communique sometime next month. And please wait for our official announcements about this. And we will also inform you about a platform to use for the discussions in our track. And if you have further questions, please do not hesitate to ask your delegate relations officer. I'm sure they'll be happy to receive your questions. And let me finish by thanking all of you who have contributed for the event for today's, and I very much look forward to working with you all again. And before we closing in, I think I got a message from the committee to turn on the cameras. So there will be 4 slides, so we will take a picture together. Possible? Awesome. All right. The committee, can you start? There will be 4. I think there will be 4 slides. I think so. There will be 4 different pictures with us together. All right. Let's start. 1, 2, 3. All right. The second one, the committee. All right. Second one. 1, 2, 3. All right, awesome. The third one. Oh, not many cameras on, but that's fine. Let's take a picture together. 1, 2, and 3. The final slide. Oh no, we only have 3 slides. All right then. Okay. All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for today, and I will see you again next week. And have a pleasant weekend to all of you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Great session.
Thank you.